Hey guys, Andrew the Realtor here, and welcome to my March 2022 housing market update. So I'll do this as fast as possible. First, I'm going to go through what has happened in the last month, how it compared to the month before, and some interesting updates for you guys. I'm doing this a little bit later in the month than I normally do. Part of it was, frankly, just being busy. The other part actually is beneficial because I have seen some things that have happened in the past week or two that I wanted to relate to you guys, which is actually more of a very important and very specific update now that we're towards the last week or so of the month of March. So other than that, I'm going to answer a very interesting Q&A that I promise you I actually get asked very, very often, a specific question, and we're going to go over that afterwards. So here it goes, the market. So let me get this, minimize myself right here, and we're going to do this as a slideshow. So first things first, let me get off the side here. So hopefully that's not too distracting for you guys. So the point here is these are obviously numbers from last month, February, and it's important to note the stuff that I actually circled. So first, if I may, without too much confusion, let's look at the thing on the left. The graph on the left, or the numbers on the left, February of 22, those are the numbers of February last month, February 2022 versus 21. So that's year over year, very important stuff. This is where most of the meat of the information comes from. So average price is incredible. And you guys already know, those of you who've seen my updates know what I feel about the word average price, and they always take it with a grain of salt. Nonetheless, clearly so much higher than it was before. A year ago, 1,044,000. Now it's 334. So what? Almost $300,000 difference. That's huge. That's almost 30%. Obviously, 27.7%. The homes sold is an interesting number. Now, it is down from what it was in February of 2021 in terms of overall homes sold. So that actually is quite normal. So this year, in terms of sales, clearly will be, as I've predicted already, and will continue to do so, the numbers overall sales are going to be probably between 16 to 17% lower than they were last year. And lo and behold, that's going to maintain. I think that's going to continue probably for the rest of this year. So continue 16, 17% lower in terms of overall sales volume. So whatever you hear about sales slumping and that kind of thing, actually quite normal. So active listings, this is always where it's at. So for last month, there were just under 7,000. You may remember from my previous, the January numbers, those numbers were less than half of that. So we started this year very low inventory due to the heavy volume of sales in 2021. And obviously active listings are going up. In fact, that's something I want to talk to you before after I get to these last two numbers. Notice the increase overall. I mean, across the board, these are not sustainable numbers. But for the time being, from 24.6 to 31%. That's your range. From condos, townhouse, semis, and of course detached is king of the hill. Still at this point. So I've already mentioned what happened with condos a couple of years ago, and those of you who listened, and some of you did, are up a couple of $100,000 at least, some more. So let's take a look at month over month just to see what's been happening. So homes sold in last month, February 2022, last month was just over 9,000 homes sold. In January of 2022, here is 5,600. So clearly more and more is happening. That's very normal for the year. Again, we're slowly getting into what is the spring market. You wouldn't know it looking at the weather, which I was in just earlier. Active listings. Now, active listings is just under 7,000. And here's what's the important part. So those are the numbers. You guys, obviously, you can pause this, take a look at what's there. The average prices are up and everything. And we have, I think I mentioned last month, there is the possibility of a correction coming at some point in time. I highly, highly doubt it'll be anytime this year. Maybe next year. Maybe it won't even happen per se. Maybe things will just slow down so the spikes are not going up as higher. In fact, on that note, this is very important. If you're with me so far, please listen to this. Active listings last month. This is towards the end of the month. 7,000 roughly, 6,985. This number right here. That's how many homes are on the market. 20,000 is balanced market. This is clearly not it. Currently, towards this last week of March, we're in about over 9,000, 9,200, 9,300, somewhere around there in terms of active listings. So here's the important point. That's clearly higher. And you've noticed we're starting about less than 3,500 in the beginning of January, and we've gone up to February where it's almost 7, double basically. And now we're towards the end of March, where we're probably going to end up somewhere in the mid 9s. We are increasing, and it's visible on the market. Those of you who are not in the market might not know this. Homes that you were getting previously, January, beginning of February, maybe 10, 15, 20 plus offers on offer date, are no longer getting that for the most part. Most of them are now getting single-digit offers, sometimes 2 or 3. And here's the very interesting point, and this is where my information starts, pay off for you guys. Roughly 50%, maybe 60%, actually, I would say, more than half, but not 100% by far, of homes that actually hit the market with an offer date actually get a good enough offer on that offer date. In fact, they sit a little bit longer and then sell. It is still a seller's market. Don't get that twisted. Please understand, it is still the case. However, it is not the same as it used to be. For sellers, you're still fine. Don't expect crazy, expect very, very good. If you're a buyer, this is where things start to look a little more friendly for you. I've seen it myself with several clients, even up to this point this year. And frankly, I like it. I like a more balanced market. And I think, frankly, most everybody else does, because the prices are there. What is going to happen in terms of the price increases? Clearly, we can't be going up 30% annually. What I'm already seeing are homes that are on average selling a X price. And in a particularly crazy market, we're constantly getting thousands over that specific price. I'm not talking about over asking, because over asking is irrelevant, as I've mentioned on probably several of these updates. But the spikes were much higher in January, February. Now we're towards the end of March. The spikes are not nearly as high. It's not that your home value just dropped as if your home value just changes every single time somebody in the neighborhood sells at a higher price. There's an average, give or take, in that area for a home such as yours. And what happens is those spikes, as inventory increases, those spikes become lower and lower. Why? Well, because you don't have as many emotional buys. You don't have as many buyers for one house. It's very normal. It's very healthy. But to some, visually, it might look like, oh, the market's actually correcting or changing in price. That's not the correction. 2017, the first half, that was a correction. 15, 20, 25% drop in price, almost across the board, with a few exceptions closer to the core of Toronto. This is not the case. However, things are changing. If you're selling or thinking of selling, I would say the sooner the better. If you're buying, I always say, hurry up and wait. Be absolutely prepared to buy the next day, tomorrow. You'll be able to buy it today even, and then wait it out. See when a house comes, and know that now you're going to have a little more chance to actually get the home. It's a positive thing. That's what's happening in the market. Anything else that's said on the news, please forget it. Next topic, the Q&A. Now, when I do these Q&A, guys, I actually do get these questions. People online and stuff mention, Q&As about things that they get asked. They actually never get asked those questions. This comes up regularly. It's probably come up at least maybe half a dozen, maybe even a dozen times this year so far, in speaking to people. Who in the world buys a $2 million home, and how do they do it? I'm going to explain it here. One of the reasons I actually love explaining this, it's not going to be particularly detailed. If you're an accountant especially, please don't get on me for this. If you're a tax person, don't. I'm going to do some basic numbers. The point of this is because instead of doing just a general example, I could have easily put names on this, because I've seen this specific thing happen over and over and over again. Maybe it's not 2 million, maybe it's a different number, but this specific scenario. So if you bear with me, I'm going to move my little face down here. Come here, Andrew. There we go. Good boy. Who buys a $2 million home? 3 steps. And if you stayed this far, thank you very much. If you already just wanted to get the market update and go, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. You guys know how much I appreciate you guys. So there's a pattern to getting this $2 million home. And there are 2 prerequisites, which I'm going to actually mention at the end, because you'll see them yourselves when you're looking at this. So there's a pattern. What's the first thing? First-time home buyers. Folks I know so amazingly well, because I've actually worked with them so many times. I've worked with dozens upon dozens upon dozens of first-time home buyers. Some of you have met me originally at a first-time home buyer seminar, which I used to hold in person with my buddy Joe. So first-time home buyers approved, say, for $550. This is an example. It could easily be a real person. In this case, it isn't. I'm just using an example. They buy a $500,000 condo. FYI, first-time home buyers are usually $350,000 to $550,000. Occasionally, I get a $600,000. That's a lot of money for a first-time home buyer. Sweet heavens, where do you get the down payment, by the way? Mom and dad? I don't know. Or you're just really mature, really saving your money. They buy a $500,000 condo. Young couple. We'll say a young couple. Let's say that they live in that property for 5 years. So 5 years living in a condo that they bought for $500,000. Obviously, 5% down, the minimum. Land transfer tax, et cetera, et cetera. 25 grand plus a lawyer. So they pay $26,000, $27,000 cash to actually get the house, and the rest is mortgage of about $475,000 or something. So let's say that they live in the property for 5 years. Very normal. And the property value in 5 years goes to about $800,000. That's not exaggerating. That's actually low. It's probably quite a bit higher. In 5 years, I've seen things regularly double. Let's just say 800,000. So, very simply speaking, they're probably paying down close to $10,000 in principal. I mean, the actual they pay about another 10,000 probably in interest or maybe more, but nonetheless, they pay about 10K in principal per year. So that amounts to about 50K for 5 years. 5 years, 10,000 each, and now it's valued at 800,000. You got $300,000 in appreciation. So the equity in the home that these guys have is actually 350. Plus, you can add the down payment that they did. So they're actually about 375. That's amazing, by the way. So take away the down payment, which they already saved originally when they bought the place. Anyway, they've saved in the home and equity 350,000 in 5 years. Now, I don't know what kind of money you guys make, and I know some of you make a very good substantial living. That's phenomenal. But for an average person, we'll say, average couple, saving $350,000 in anything other than real estate, it's kind of a toughie. I mean, I don't know if your RSPs are doing that for you. Just FYI. But remember this scenario: the condo is worth 800,000. They have 350 in equity on it. Step two: upsizing to a townhome in the 1.1 million range. Very normal. The steps to a larger luxury home, quite often, with a couple of prerequisites that I'm going to mention. You're looking at usually a condo or some sort of entry level property, usually something in the middle, semi or a townhome, often a townhome, and then you go to the big boy. That's the usual ones. Occasionally, there's an extra step in there, or sometimes people are financially really capable. They really increase in finances quickly. They move right from the entry level to the big boy. Now they're buying a townhome in the $1.1 million range. In 5 years, they've increased their income by 50%. That's in bold. That's one of the prerequisites. The income has to increase. I said 50% just for this particular example. It goes up and down, but obviously in 5 years, two adults, a couple that is probably both working. That's how life is. They maybe not have children at this point. Their income is increasing at some point in time. Maybe it's not 50%. Some of us self-employed or something can do that. Some of us are not. Nonetheless, it is increasing. In this particular case, let's say around 50%, so you can get a much bigger mortgage. But they don't. They don't use all that buying power. Instead, they buy at 1.1 million. So they need $220,000 down because anything over a million is 20%, and another $50,000 after expenses in their savings account. That's what they have in their actual account after they buy the house and pay all the closing costs and everything. You get a mortgage of $880,000, which is almost double of what they had before, understandably. But again, this is where the income comes in, and of course, some money that they have saved up. Very regular thing for my clients these days, by the way. They buy the house, they have the down payment, and they have a bunch of cash just sitting there, which is phenomenal to have as 6 months of expenses, 8 months of expenses. It's a beautiful thing, just mentally for security reasons. So mortgage of 880, you're almost double of what they had before. Say they live in this townhouse now for 4 years. So they bought that townhouse. They got this. They have 50,000 in their savings account, and they're paying off a mortgage of 880, and they put in 220 down. So their equity right now at that point is $220,000, another 50,000 in savings. They live in this townhome for 4 years. The income increases another 50%. Now, again, that's the other prerequisite. And in my personal example, because I want to get them to, excuse me, out to that 2 million range. If the range is lower, this could be a lot more lower, or for some people, including some of you, maybe it's more realistic, not 50%, maybe it's 25% or 20%. But the reality is that as we grow older, as we mature, as we get better at the skills and occupations that we have, that income often does increase. So 4 years, income increases 50%. In 5 years, the property is now valued around 1.6 million. So their townhome that they bought for 1.1 is now 1.6 million. Again, I see this every day. Very normal. Very normal. 5 years. In fact, it's usually quite a bit higher than that. So now they're in a townhome for 1.6 million. Okay, you see what I'm saying? They're halfway there, basically, in terms of where they're going in this plan of getting to their luxury home of $2 million. So now they assume you're paying principal payment of, I don't know, about $2,000 per year principal, because it's like the previous mortgage, but just double. We'll say $20,000 per year or so they do in principal. It's probably rough in there. That's about $80,000 in principal over the 5 years. $500,000 in appreciation. Oh, I guess it would be 100,000. Forgive me, made a typo there. But let's say 80. Actually, conservatively speaking. So say they paid off 80,000. You have 500,000 in appreciation plus 220 that they put down. So what they paid for the mortgage, how much the house is appreciated in terms of value, plus the down payment they did in the first place. Now you're looking at $800,000 in equity. That's what it is. It's a nice even number. So let's say that's it. Instead of doing 20 per year, it's more like 80. They have $800,000 in equity, and the house is worth 1.6 million. They want to upsize. Next step: who in the world buys a $2 million home? These guys with $800,000 in equity. They need, of course, 20% minimum down. They put down $600,000 for their next home. That's actually more than 20%, but it lowers their monthly payments. Now they spend around $120,000 for land transfer tax, selling their home, lawyers, realtors, etc., moving costs, those kinds of things. That's a rough number, fairly accurate. Now they own, say, now they own a $2 million home, have a $1.4 million mortgage, which is, again, roughly almost 3 times the original mortgage of the condo they bought when the first time home buyers, 10 years ago. At low rates, you're looking at a mortgage of about $6,500 a month. Now, I know that's a lot for many folks. It's a lot of money. There's no doubt about it. But the question that I swear to you I've been getting for the past few years when they see homes go for sale at 2 million, 1.8, 2.2 upwards, who affords these things? Are they all multimillionaires? No, not really. No, they're people who, in a time of, say, 10-ish years, go from first-time home buyers, build up their equity, halfway through, give or take, they get another home, and they live in that for about the same time. Maybe they live a little bit longer, let the depreciation come up a little bit more, so they have a smaller mortgage when they actually buy that $2 million property that they've been dreaming about for the past few years. It's a reality. It's a strong reality. I've seen it myself. I love watching it because as you see people improve and the hard work, you see the hard work paying off. So anyway, I'm already well into almost 17 minutes here. So those that stuck around this long, I really appreciate it. If nothing else, I hope this gives you some encouragement. I've seen this. Maybe yours is in the 2 million range. Maybe you don't care about 2 million, or you don't want an insane mortgage of $1.4 million. I respect that. But this is the pattern that people use consistently. And some of you who are watching this right now have done this to get maybe not to 2 million, but maybe a smaller number, but you've been following this exact pattern. So anyway, I wish you guys a fantastic rest of March. I will see you in an earlier part in April, God willing. And thank you so much for your time. I always appreciate it.